Ethan, a 21-year-old young man, was kind-hearted and always willing to help others, even though his life was not easy. Born into a poor working-class family, Ethan had learned from a young age that life was a continuous series of efforts. Every day, he worked 2 jobs, washing dishes at a small restaurant in the morning, and in the evening, he worked as a loading assistant at a local warehouse. These demanding jobs not only drained his energy, but also tested his perseverance and spirit. He never complained, understanding that every drop of sweat he put in contributed to supporting his family, helping to ease the burden on his mother and younger sister. One evening, after an exhausting day, Ethan boarded the last bus home. All he wished for was a moment of rest, to get home and finally lie down. As usual, the bus was packed with people. Time passed, and Ethan felt lucky to find an empty seat at the back of the bus. He quickly sat down, breathing a sigh of relief, closed his eyes, and allowed himself a brief moment of relaxation. Just as Ethan was letting his mind relax, a slight noise made him open his eyes. He saw an elderly woman with silver-white hair slowly stepping onto the bus. She moved 1 step at a time, her frail and tired body evident in every movement. The elderly woman looked around the bus, hoping to find a seat, but they were all taken. The people around her were immersed in their phones or personal thoughts, and no one paid her any attention. Some even looked annoyed at having to make way for her to pass. Without hesitation, Ethan stood up and said, "Ma'am, you can have my seat." Ethan's voice was gentle yet sincere. The elderly woman seemed surprised, her eyes reflecting gratitude. She smiled at Ethan and gently took the seat. Ethan stood beside her, holding onto the handrail for balance as the bus began to move. At times, Ethan felt tired, but he also felt a sense of happiness and satisfaction. He knew he had done something small yet meaningful, and for the elderly woman, perhaps it was more than just a simple act of kindness. When the bus stopped at the next station and Ethan prepared to get off, he felt a gentle tug on his sleeve. The elderly woman slowly reached into Ethan's jacket pocket and placed a small folded piece of paper inside, then smiled mysteriously. When Ethan got off the bus, curiosity urged him to open the piece of paper. Written on it was an address and a sequence of numbers, like a security code. At first, he didn't understand what was written, but he felt a special sensation inside. Maybe this was not just a simple thank you gesture. That night, Ethan lay in bed, his mind constantly thinking about the note and the elderly woman. He wondered if fate had led him to this strange encounter. The next morning, Ethan woke up with the note still on his mind. He tried to push it aside, focusing on his responsibilities, but the mystery lingered. He kept thinking about the frail, kind woman from the bus and wondered why she would go to the trouble of giving him such an enigmatic message. Every time he pulled the note from his pocket, the address and code stared back at him, challenging him to solve the puzzle. It felt like a small invitation to step out of his routine and maybe discover something meaningful. A few days passed, and Ethan's curiosity only grew. On his next day off, he finally decided to explore the address written on the note. After a quick breakfast, he boarded a bus that headed toward the location. As the bus rolled through familiar streets and then into unknown neighborhoods, Ethan's heart raced with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. He had no idea what he might find, but something in him felt it would be worth the effort. When the bus finally stopped, Ethan stepped off, looking around at the quiet, upscale neighborhood. Large, stately houses lined the streets, their expansive gardens and tall trees creating a sense of calm and wealth. Ethan felt slightly out of place in his simple clothes, but he took a deep breath and reminded himself of the kindness that had brought him here. As he walked toward the address on the note, he realized it led him to a grand estate, much larger than he had imagined. The entrance was guarded by a tall iron gate, and Ethan hesitated. Was this really the place? Could this actually be the home of the woman from the bus? Noticing a keypad by the gate, Ethan pulled out the note and looked at the 5-digit code. It seemed almost absurd, but he decided to try it. He typed in the numbers carefully, half expecting it not to work. To his surprise, the gate buzzed and swung open slowly, inviting him into the estate. Ethan's heartbeat quickened as he stepped through the gate, feeling as if he had crossed into a new world. As he walked up the long driveway, he couldn't help but marvel at the lush garden that surrounded the house. Beautiful flowers bloomed in neat rows, and tall trees cast cool shadows along the path. It was peaceful here, a stark contrast to the bustling city streets Ethan was used to. The mansion at the end of the driveway was both impressive and intimidating, with tall windows and a grand entranceway that hinted at a life of luxury. Ethan felt a mix of awe and curiosity as he approached the front door, which stood slightly ajar, as though someone was expecting him. He hesitated for a moment, unsure if he should knock or simply enter. Gathering his courage, Ethan stepped through the door and into the spacious foyer. The house was elegant, decorated with intricate details and tasteful art. A soft, warm light filled the space, giving it an inviting feel despite its grandeur. Just as he was taking in his surroundings, a familiar voice broke the silence. "Hello, Ethan," the voice said warmly. Turning, Ethan saw the elderly woman from the bus, seated comfortably in a plush armchair in the living room. She looked just as he remembered, but there was a peaceful glow in her eyes that he hadn't noticed before. She seemed genuinely pleased to see him, as if she had been waiting for his arrival. "Welcome to my home," she said with a gentle smile. "I wasn't sure if you would come, but I'm glad you did." Ethan felt a mixture of relief and wonder. He hadn't realized just how many questions he had until he saw her sitting there. As he sat down across from her, he managed to find his voice. "Thank you, but I have to ask, why did you give me that note? And why invite me here?" The woman, whose name he soon learned was Margot, simply chuckled softly. "You see, Ethan, sometimes life brings people into our paths for a reason. You showed me kindness on that bus, and I saw something in you that many others had overlooked." She paused, as if gathering her thoughts, and then continued. "I've been living alone for many years now. My children are grown, my family spread across the country. I have everything I need, except someone I can trust nearby." Her words hung in the air, and Ethan sensed the weight of her loneliness, something he had not expected. He remained silent, listening intently as she shared bits of her life story, her youth spent building a family and a career, and the years that had slipped by as her loved ones moved away. Margot explained that, though she had all the comforts money could buy, she longed for companionship and trust, two things she could no longer find easily. "I've had people come and go, hired help who didn't stay long," she explained with a small sigh. "Some took advantage, others didn't understand. But you, Ethan, you showed me something different. I could see that you understand what it means to work hard, to care about others." Ethan sat in silence, absorbing her words. He had never thought of himself as special, just someone trying to do the right thing. But Margot's words touched him, reminding him of his own family and the responsibilities he carried every day. In her presence, he felt valued in a way that was unfamiliar, yet comforting. Margot then told him why she had invited him specifically. She wanted him to consider working as her personal caretaker. She needed someone reliable, someone with empathy and strength, to help her with her daily needs. Her health was beginning to decline, and she feared that she might need constant assistance in the future. But more than help, she wanted someone she could trust, someone who understood the importance of compassion and kindness. The offer stunned Ethan. He had never expected such a proposition, and he wasn't sure how to respond. On one hand, the thought of leaving his current jobs and entering a completely different world was daunting. Yet, on the other hand, Margot's words resonated with him. It was a chance to make a difference, not just for himself, but for someone else in need. After a long pause, Ethan spoke up. I don't know if I'm the right person for this, but I'd be honored to try. Margot's eyes lit up, and she nodded as if she had been expecting this response. She assured him that he didn't need to make a decision right away and could take a few days to think it over. Before Ethan left, Margot handed him a small folder containing details of the role she was offering, including a salary that was far beyond anything he could have imagined. As he walked away from the estate that day, Ethan felt as if he was carrying more than just a job offer. He was carrying the weight of Margot's trust and the beginning of a journey that would transform both their lives in ways they could not yet foresee. That night, Ethan sat in his small apartment, thinking about Margot's words and the possibilities ahead. He thought about the sacrifices his mother had made for him and the values she had instilled in him. Here was an opportunity not only to earn a better living, but also to honor those values by bringing kindness and support to someone else's life. With a sense of resolve, Ethan knew what he would do. The following day, he made his way back to Margot's estate, ready to embrace the challenge that lay ahead. He couldn't yet see the full impact of this decision, but deep down, he understood that he was about to embark on a journey that would teach him as much about life as it would about himself. Ethan officially began working as Margot's caretaker the following week. He felt a strange combination of excitement and nervousness as he prepared for his new responsibilities. Leaving behind the physically demanding labor at the restaurant and warehouse was a relief, but he knew this role would challenge him in different ways. Margot, though gentle and warm, had lived a life full of experiences and perspectives he could barely imagine. He was stepping into her world, one that felt foreign yet unexpectedly welcoming. Margot's home became Ethan's second home almost immediately. His new duties were simple at first: preparing her meals, ensuring she took her medication, and helping her move around the house when needed. But gradually, he began taking on more as he became comfortable in the role. He would do the grocery shopping, arrange her appointments, and handle the little details that helped Margot live more comfortably. She trusted him with every task, and that trust motivated Ethan to do his best. Each day, he discovered something new about her, whether it was her favorite type of tea or the soft melodies she enjoyed in the evenings. Their conversations became a cherished part of Ethan's routine. Margot was an extraordinary storyteller, weaving together tales from her childhood, her early days as a businesswoman, and the adventures that had filled her life. She had traveled to places Ethan had only read about, and her descriptions brought those places to life. He listened, captivated by her wisdom and insights, which went far beyond just recounting memories. She shared life lessons, emphasizing the importance of kindness, resilience, and humility. One afternoon, as they sat by the large window overlooking the garden, Margot shared one of her most personal stories. She spoke of the early years when she had nothing but ambition and a desire to make a difference. She had faced numerous challenges, including financial struggles and societal biases, yet she had persevered. "Ethan," she said softly, "the world will test you. It will push you to your limits, make you question everything you believe in. But remember this: no matter how hard things get, stay true to your values. Kindness isn't a weakness. It's a strength that few people truly possess." Ethan felt those words sink deep into his heart. He thought about his own life, the sacrifices his mother had made for him, and the determination that kept him going. Margot's advice felt like a guiding light, a reminder that his journey, though different from hers, held its own value. He understood that his kindness and empathy weren't just qualities. They were strengths that had led him to this very moment. As time passed, Ethan's role in Margot's life grew more profound. He became not only her caretaker, but her confidant, someone who genuinely cared for her well-being beyond his duties. Margot, in turn, became a mentor to him, shaping his outlook on life with every story she shared. Their bond was not one of employer and employee, but of two people from different generations finding common ground through mutual respect and compassion. One evening, As Ethan was preparing dinner, he heard a soft knock on the kitchen door. Margot entered, leaning slightly on her cane, and asked if she could help. At first, Ethan was hesitant. He didn't want her to strain herself, but she insisted, so he handed her a bowl of vegetables to chop. They worked side by side in comfortable silence, each absorbed in the simple act of preparing a meal. It was a small moment, but it carried a warmth and closeness that made Ethan feel as though he were cooking with family. As they sat down to eat, Margot surprised Ethan by thanking him for being there. She explained that, in her later years, she had often felt invisible, as if her life no longer mattered in the way it once had. "People tend to look past us as we age," she said, "but you've reminded me that I still have value, that my experiences mean something." Ethan was moved by her words, realizing that his presence had a deeper impact than he'd imagined. Their bond became a source of strength for both of them. Margot began to rely on Ethan not just for practical support, but for companionship, someone who valued her for who she was. She taught Ethan about managing finances, about understanding people, and even about setting goals beyond mere survival. He, in turn, brought laughter and youthfulness into her life, sharing his dreams and aspirations with her. They became each other's teachers in ways neither had expected. One day, Margot noticed Ethan looking slightly withdrawn, his usually bright demeanor clouded with worry. She asked him if something was bothering him, and after a moment of hesitation, Ethan opened up. He shared his concern for his mother, who had been recently diagnosed with a serious illness. The cost of her treatment was far beyond what he could afford, and he felt torn between his duty to Margot and his responsibility to his family. Margot listened intently, her expression one of deep empathy. She understood the weight of family obligations and the heartache of wanting to help but feeling powerless. She placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder and told him, "You're a good son, Ethan. Never doubt that. Life often presents us with impossible choices, but the fact that you care so much is already a sign of your strength." Ethan felt a sense of relief, having finally shared his worries with someone who understood. Margot encouraged him to have faith and not lose hope. She believed that sometimes, when we least expect it, life has a way of providing answers. Though her words didn't solve his problem, they brought him comfort and a renewed sense of resilience. The days rolled on, each one adding new layers to their friendship. Margot's health, however, continued to decline, and Ethan noticed the subtle signs of fatigue in her once lively spirit. She moved slower, spent more time resting, and occasionally seemed lost in thought. Ethan took extra care to ensure she was comfortable, adjusting her medications with the doctor's guidance and preparing meals that were easy for her to digest. Despite her frailty, Margot's eyes still held the same spark of wisdom and kindness. As she grew weaker, their conversations took on a new depth. Margot spoke more frequently about life's impermanence, the importance of cherishing each moment, and the legacy one leaves behind. She emphasized the value of compassion and integrity, reminding Ethan that real wealth was found in how we treated others, not in material possessions. Ethan absorbed her words, feeling a profound respect for the woman who had shared so much of herself with him. One night, Margot asked Ethan to sit with her in the garden. The air was cool, and the stars shone brightly above, casting a serene glow over the estate. Margot shared her final thoughts with him, speaking about the importance of living with purpose and kindness. She encouraged Ethan to pursue his dreams, to stay true to himself, and to always remember the impact one person's compassion could have on the lives of others. "I don't have much time left, Ethan," she said softly, her voice steady but gentle. "But I want you to know that meeting you has been one of the greatest blessings of my life. You've shown me that kindness still exists, that there are people in this world who care without expecting anything in return." Ethan's heart swelled with emotion as he listened, his eyes stinging with unshed tears. He realized that Margot's words weren't just advice, they were a gift, a legacy of love and wisdom that would stay with him forever. In that moment, he understood that he was not simply her caretaker. He was a part of her life, and she was a part of his. Their connection transcended age, circumstance, and even time itself. As they sat together under the stars, Ethan made a silent promise to honor Margot's memory, to carry forward the lessons she had taught him, and to live a life filled with the same kindness and integrity she had shown him. He knew that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, he would face them with the strength and compassion he had learned from her. The days continued to pass, and as Margot's health declined further, Ethan's responsibilities increased. He took on the role not just of caretaker, but of close family, the one person who was by her side through every challenge and discomfort. Margot's once vibrant spirit began to dim, yet she held on with a strength that both inspired and saddened Ethan. The wise, lively woman who had once shared stories of adventure and resilience was now dependent on him for the simplest tasks. Ethan could see the toll that age and illness were taking on her, and it made his heart ache. As Margot's physical strength faded, their emotional bond only grew deeper. She continued to share her wisdom with him, but now, her words carried an urgency that hadn't been there before. She spoke about her past regrets, her missed opportunities, and the few things she would have done differently if she had the chance. "Ethan," she would often say in her soft, tired voice, "don't let fear or hesitation hold you back. Life is too short to wait for the perfect moment. Sometimes you have to create that moment yourself." Ethan felt the weight of her words. He saw in Margot a reflection of the lessons his mother had always tried to teach him: the importance of living fully, of embracing life's uncertainties with courage and integrity. These conversations became a form of therapy for both of them. Margot found solace in sharing her thoughts, while Ethan found strength in her words, his determination to live a purposeful life growing stronger with each passing day. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, Margot motioned for Ethan to sit with her by the fireplace. Her frail hands shook slightly as she held a small, faded photo album. She opened it, revealing photographs of her family, her children, and her younger self. Her fingers traced the edges of the photos as she spoke, her voice filled with a bittersweet nostalgia. Ethan listened intently, feeling as though he were being given a rare glimpse into Margot's soul. "Ethan," she began, "this life we lead, it's full of people we love, places we cherish, and memories we hold dear. But as time goes by, these things start to fade. My children, they have their own lives now, their own families. They visit when they can, but they have their own paths to follow, and that's as it should be." Margot's voice grew softer, and for a moment, Ethan thought he saw a tear in her eye. "You, Ethan, have become family to me, not because of blood, but because of the kindness you've shown me. You've given me dignity in my last days, and that is something I can never repay." Ethan reached out, gently placing his hand over hers. "You don't need to repay me, Margot. You've already given me so much. I don't think I'll ever be able to express how much you mean to me." Their quiet moment was interrupted by a loud noise from outside the house. Both Ethan and Margot turned toward the sound, a mixture of confusion and concern in their eyes. Ethan rose to his feet, his protective instincts kicking in immediately. He glanced at Margot, who nodded slightly, as if urging him to investigate. With a quick but reassuring smile, he left her side and moved toward the front door. As he opened the door, he saw a shadowy figure lurking near the side of the house. The man wore a hood, obscuring his face, and seemed to be trying to pry open a window. Ethan's heart raced. Despite the adrenaline pumping through him, he forced himself to remain calm. He didn't want to startle the intruder, but he knew he couldn't allow him to get any closer to Margot. Ethan approached cautiously, his voice steady but firm. "Hey! What do you think you're doing?" he called out. The intruder froze for a moment before turning to face him, his eyes narrowing as he assessed Ethan. Without a word, the man lunged toward him, catching Ethan off guard. The next few moments unfolded in a blur. Ethan defended himself, his years of hard work and physical labor giving him an unexpected advantage. They struggled, and although the intruder fought back fiercely, Ethan managed to subdue him. Breathing heavily, he finally restrained the man just as the police arrived, alerted by a neighbor who had heard the commotion. The officers took over, and Ethan felt a wave of relief wash over him. Margot was safe. When he returned to the house, Margot was waiting for him, her eyes filled with both worry and pride. She thanked him, her voice trembling with gratitude. "You risked yourself to protect me," she whispered, her hands gripping his tightly. "I don't know what I would have done if something had happened to you." Ethan shook his head, dismissing her concern. "I'd do it again in a heartbeat, Margot. You're like family to me, too. I couldn't just stand by and let anything happen to you." Their bond, already strong, felt unbreakable after that night. Margot's trust in Ethan grew, and he, in turn, felt an even deeper sense of responsibility toward her. From that day on, he made sure to keep a closer eye on her, staying with her overnight when she requested it, and ensuring that the house was secure. However, the incident had taken a toll on Margot. Though she tried to hide it, Ethan could see that her strength was waning. The fear and stress had left her feeling more vulnerable, and her health continued to decline at a faster rate. Ethan stayed by her side, offering comfort and reassurance, but he knew that their time together was limited. In the following weeks, as Margot grew weaker, Ethan found himself reflecting on all that she had taught him. The lessons she had imparted, the values she had shared, and the kindness she had shown him would stay with him forever. She had become more than a mentor or friend. She was a guiding force in his life, one that he would carry with him long after she was gone. One evening, Margot asked Ethan to sit with her one last time. Her voice was faint, barely a whisper, but her eyes were bright with a deep, unwavering resolve. "Ethan, I want you to promise me something," she said softly. "Promise me that you will live with purpose, that you will carry forward the kindness and compassion that you have shown me. The world needs more people like you, people who care." Ethan felt tears prick at his eyes as he nodded, knowing that this was Margot's final request. "I promise, Margot. I won't let you down. I'll make sure that your kindness lives on." With a gentle smile, Margot closed her eyes, her expression peaceful and content. Ethan stayed by her side all night, holding her hand, silently thanking her for everything she had given him. As dawn broke, Margot slipped away, her passing as gentle and graceful as she had been in life. Ethan mourned her deeply, feeling the weight of her absence in every corner of the house. But as he went through the days that followed, he found comfort in knowing that Margot's legacy would live on through him. Her words, her wisdom, and her unwavering kindness had become a part of him, shaping the person he would become. When the attorney read Margot's will, Ethan was astounded to learn that she had left him her estate and much of her savings. It was a gesture that showed the depth of her trust and love for him. With this gift, Ethan was able to afford the medical care his mother needed and even set up a small fund to help others in need, just as Margot had helped him. Her generosity and compassion continued to touch lives, even after her passing, and Ethan knew that he would spend the rest of his life honoring her memory, living with the same kindness and integrity she had shown him. Margot's legacy was not in the wealth she had accumulated, but in the lives she had touched, the hearts she had changed, and the kindness she had inspired. In the days following Margot's passing, Ethan felt an emptiness he couldn't quite shake. She had been more than just an employer or even a friend. She had been a profound influence on his life, a guide, and a reminder of the power of compassion and kindness. He spent time in her home, organizing her belongings with the utmost respect, keeping the memories of their time together alive with each item he touched. As he continued to go through her things, Ethan came across a box of letters and journals. Inside were decades of Margot's thoughts, hopes, and reflections on life. It was as if she had left behind a final gift, one that allowed Ethan to see her heart and soul laid bare. Her writings revealed her vision of a world where compassion wasn't rare, but rather the foundation of all human connections. She had dreamed of making a difference, of inspiring people to live with integrity and empathy. Moved by her words, Ethan decided that her legacy wouldn't end with him alone. With the estate she had left him, Ethan not only provided for his mother's medical care, but also set up a small charity in Margot's name, focusing on helping elderly individuals who, like her, needed companionship, care, and respect in their final years. The charity became a place where people could volunteer, share stories, and provide kindness to those who often felt invisible. Each day, Ethan worked tirelessly to uphold Margot's vision, dedicating himself to a life of purpose, just as she had encouraged him to do. Ethan's commitment to Margot's values drew people to him, and soon, he became known in his community as someone who stood for kindness and compassion. He began to share Margot's stories and life lessons with others, using her wisdom to inspire hope and courage in those who listened. Her memory lived on not only through the charity, but in the lives of everyone who heard her story. Years later, as he looked at the charity's impact, Ethan knew Margot's influence would reach even further than they could have imagined. Her kindness, passed down to him in that one small act on a crowded bus, had blossomed into a legacy of compassion that would continue to touch lives for generations to come. Iggy. If this story moved you, remember that kindness can create a ripple effect, changing lives in ways we may never fully understand. Join us on our journey as we share more inspiring stories like Margot and Ethan's, stories that remind us of the power of compassion, resilience, and the importance of human connections. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Help us spread positivity and kindness to more people by liking, commenting, and sharing our videos with others. Thank you for being part of our community. And remember, sometimes, even the smallest act of kindness can change a life.